have to abide by him, you have to anoint yourself, and live in the lifestyle of God.
Amen.
And God will work miracles. And that too in my life. And right now, the hunger for God in my heart is amazing. And like I said, I have 2 testimonies.
Come on now.
One of them happened 9 years ago. I became deaf. I lost the hearing in both of my ears. First, it was, I had no nerve. I had nerve damage in both of my ears. And doctors tried everything. I went from surgeries, I went from shots in my ears. They ended up putting a cochlear implant on the side of my head where they drilled a 3-inch screw in the side of my head and put this box on my side so I can hear. It didn't work. It worked that time, and it was, I was able to hear through bone conduction, and it didn't work at all. I had, problems with it. I kept going back to doctors. So I was looking for a church, and I found the Upper Room on Facebook. I connected with an old high school friend, Brother White, and he kept telling me to come to church. And I was a little scared because I was deaf. I mean, I didn't know if the Baja was going to work. I didn't know anybody else. And he kept telling me to come to church. And then Pastor texted me, so he apparently had told Pastor. And Pastor texted me, and he said to me, and I remember his exact text to me, and he said, "You come to church. What are you afraid of? Ain't nobody gonna hurt you." And I remember that. So I said, okay, I gotta go. So I came, I met him for a prayer group. This was in East Hartford. And I met him for a prayer group. And I was able to hear a little bit because I had the Baja on. And I was able to hear a little bit, but then my head was starting to hurt, and it was just getting worse. So when I left there, I thought to myself, from now on, and I went home and I told my husband, from now on, I'm giving my life to God. I'm taking this off. I'm not going to do it. No more medicine, no more drugs, no more cortisone shots. I'm taking this off, and I'm going to read lips. And I did. From that day on, I did. And I came to church the next week, and I sat in the second row. This was in the church in East Hartford, and I read Pastor's lips. He had to hold the microphone down a little bit so that I could see his lips. But I did. And I sat in the second row, and I read lips, and I didn't really talk to anybody because I couldn't really communicate that well because I was deaf. So I listened to God, I listened to Pastor, and I left. And I did that for 2 months. And then one day I felt something on my left side. I couldn't hear anything still, but I felt something, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know if something was in there. I had no idea. And my husband kept telling me, you gotta go to a doctor and have them take a CAT scan and see what's going on. At first I didn't want to do it, but then I said, something's going on, so I'm gonna go. We went to have a CAT scan, and the doctor said to me, I don't know how, but there's life coming back in your left heart. So I text Pastor right away, and Pastor said, you just keep coming. You just keep coming. And I did. I kept coming. 3 months later, I was here in church, sitting in the second row. Pastor called me up at the altar, and he put oil in both my ears. Well, the Holy Spirit hit me.
Jesus.
It hit me hard. I could feel it, and it hit me hard, and I hit the ground.
Jeez.
When I got up, well, first of all, I heard like a loud noise. And I'm thinking to myself, did I just hear something? Because, I haven't heard for so long. And I got up, and the first thing I heard was I heard a voice. And I'm looking all around. I heard this song, Yes, Lord, trading my sorrows. And I'm trying to figure out where it was coming from. And it was coming from Sister Wanda Johnson. And I remember too, she was over in the corner near Crystal where the organist was. And she was standing there singing. And then I looked at Pastor, I gave him a hug, and of course I whispered in his ear, and I don't know why I whispered in his ear, but I whispered in his ear, I can hear. And he gave me the microphone. He gave me the microphone, and I said, I can hear. And that was,
Praise God.
that was amazing. And that was an amazing moment. And I remember going home. Well, my husband always told me to text him on the way home. And I remember going home, and I had every emotion in me. And my husband just looked at me as I walked through the door, and I had these emotions, laughing, crying, everything all over my face. The emotions were unbelievable. And I said to my husband started signing to me, because that's how we communicated. And I said to him, stop signing. I can And I thought I was going to have to pick him off the ground. I just thought I was going to have to pick him off the ground. And then I kept grabbing for my phone, and I called my kids on the phone. And the first one I called was my son. And I said, hello, and he's like, Ma? And I'm like, yeah, Ma? I'm like, yeah, Tristan, just keep talking. I just want to hear your voice. And he's still confused, and he's going, Ma? So, but it was beautiful, and it was amazing. Now, I have a second testimony that Pastor doesn't even know about. This just happened not too long ago, just a couple weeks ago. And like I said, Pastor doesn't know. The only one that knows, and the reason why I didn't want to tell anybody, or I didn't want to say anything, because I didn't want to have to answer any questions. I was scared. I didn't want anybody feeling sorry for me. And I didn't really need the prayers, because I knew God was going to work it out. But I just needed that little support and that little push. So I turned to Brother Hendricks. Because he's a man of God and he's anointed. And we all see him running around the church. We all see him anointed from his head to his toes. And I turned to him and his wife, Sister Carol, oh there she is, and for just a little bit of support. But anyways, I don't know if anybody remembers, but a few weeks ago, I was cleaning my attic, and I had pulled down the attic stairs, and I had this basket full of books fall on my head. Kind of a freak accident, but it fell on my head. And I got a little cut right here, and I had a bad headache. And I thought maybe I had a concussion. And again, my husband says, you gotta go to the doctor, you gotta have that checked out. I hate doctors, I just do. And I said, well, we'll see. And so then we ended up going to the emergency room Sunday afternoon. And the doctor took a CAT scan, and he was worried about bleeding on the brain and he was worried about a concussion. So he came back, took a CAT scan, and he came back and he said that everything looked great. There was no bleeding on the brain. I had a concussion. It'll go away. You know, it may take, you know, a couple days, a couple months. It all depends. And he said, but there's one thing that I noticed on your CAT scan is you have a lump on your left lung. He said, have your PCP check over the CAT scan. So of course I had 1,001 questions, and I said, well, how big is it, where it is, and he wouldn't tell me anything. He said, I can't tell you anything. He says, all you need to do is contact your doctor in the morning. So I said, okay. Of course, it was Sunday afternoon, and it felt like the longest day because I didn't know what it was. I was asking him questions. He wasn't answering, and you know, your mind wanders. So next morning, first thing Monday morning, I called my PCP, my primary care physician. And I got a hold of her, and she said she would get the records, she would get the CAT scan, and she would call me back later. And I pleaded with her to call me that day because I just wanted to know, you know, and I knew God was behind me, and I knew I was gonna get through this. So she called me and she says to me, I'd like for you and your husband to come in tomorrow morning. She says, I want to talk to you. So I said, okay. Didn't sound good, but we went in. We went in first thing, 8 o'clock Tuesday morning. The doctor said to me, I want another CAT scan done because I do see what this doctor saw, this lump on your left lung. I see that. I also see on the right something else going on. It looks like cancer cells, but I'm not sure. I need a full picture. She says, I'm gonna have you go for a CAT scan, call Jefferson Radiology, schedule an appointment for CAT scan, and go to this pulmonologist. There's this pulmonary doctor that I want you to see because he specializes in lungs. So I said, okay. She said, call for an appointment and then call him up. Well, of course, I wanted it done right away, you know, and I pushed. And I called Jefferson Radiology. I made an appointment with the doctor, and he said, come in tomorrow. So we went in tomorrow. I happened to get an appointment for the CAT scan right away. So that was all good because it was all working out really quick. And we went to the pulmonologist, and he said to me that he sees exactly what my PCP saw. And looks like cancer, but he wasn't sure, so he's gonna send me to an oncologist. So at this point, I'm like, okay, all these doctors, now I gotta go to an oncologist. Wasn't happy about that. But I said, you know, God's going to be with me. I'm going to do this.
That's right.
So me and my husband, of course, I had to get on the phone and try to make an appointment as quick as possible because it was eating away at me, you know. So got an appointment with the oncologist, and Russ and I went, and the oncologist says to me, I see the lump, but it's on your breast, it's not on your lung. And I'm like, okay, well, two doctors said it's on my lung, now you're saying it's on my breast. And he said, and on this side, I don't know what that is, but what we're gonna do is, he says, we have to remove that lump. So we're gonna go in and we're gonna remove that lump and we're gonna look at what's on this side. And then we'll send you for chemotherapy and radiation, and he's filling my head with all this. And I was like, oh no, this is not happening. So he says, I want you to go to the desk and schedule an appointment for the doctor, for the surgery to take place. And then right after you do chemotherapy and radiation. So we walk out of the office and I looked at Russ and I said, keep walking. I'm not making an appointment, keep walking. And he just looked at me like, huh? huh? And I'm like, just keep walking. I'm not doing this. So we get in the car, we keep walking, we get in the car, and I looked at him and I said to him, I want to have a specialist look at these CAT scans. I want to get all my medical records together, and I want to go to Boston. I want to have somebody look at this. Because one person says it's on my lungs, one person says it's a lump. They don't know what it is, and they just want to open me up, and they just want to take it out. I'm not doing it. God's telling me I'm not doing it. You know, He's behind me all the way. I'm not doing this. So Russ looked at me and said, okay. So I went home, and I did all my homework. I got all my records, I got my CAT scans, I got all my written work from all those doctors. Now mind you, this is all happening within a week. So I got everything, and I got on the internet, and I searched for a specialist and an oncologist, and I happened to come across this one in Boston at Leahy Clinic, and I called, and the receptionist was really nice. She understood, she was really nice, and she said she's going to try to get me in as soon as possible. She called me back a couple hours later and said, why don't you come in first thing tomorrow morning? And I said, all I need is for somebody to read this, for a doctor to read these. I don't need a physical or anything else, or any further tests. And she said, you and your husband come in. So we did. We took a road trip, and we went to Boston. And we walked in the office, and the doctor, asked us what brought us here and everything. And I told him I had everything with me. And I said to him, I went to a pulmonologist, I went to an oncologist, and they said that I have this lump. So he looked at, I had everything with me because I knew that he can pull them up on the internet, but I figured a physical copy is better. So I had it all with me, and he pulls it up, and he looks at it, and the first thing out of his mouth, he says, I see the lump. He says, but the first thing out of his mouth was, when was your last radiation or chemotherapy treatment? And I looked at him and I said, huh? What are you talking about? And he repeated it again. He said, when was your last chemotherapy and radiation treatment? I said, I never had chemotherapy and radiation. I just found this a week ago. I didn't have chemotherapy, radiation. He said, well, what kind of medicine did you take? He said, I didn't take any medicine. And he said, well, that lump is hollow. That lump is empty inside. It looks like it was full of cancer, but something killed it. And this on the right-hand side is all dead cancer cells.
Wow.
I'm going to show you. He said, I'm going to show you. And he pulled us into his office, and he showed us pictures of what cancer looks like after chemotherapy.
Jesus.
And he compared it to my pictures. Looks exactly the same.
Whoa.
Exactly.
Whoa.
We went home, and of course I did the same thing. I looked it up, and it was the exact same thing.
Jesus.
God is what killed that cancer.